Alright everyone, a rare thing, two rare things. A Celtic PM video for you today, we're putting out nice and early. It's a late one for me tonight. Also sadly a rare defeat for Celtic. 2-1 we lost to Hibernian at Easter Road. One of the reasons we're doing this right after full time and not later on to be out first thing on Sunday is that there's a hell of a lot to chat about, and I'm going to do that with Stevie, who's just cracked open a can of San Pellegrino.
that's where the laughter stops, isn't it? It really wasn't a funny one today, but aye, thank you for your reference.
So a wee Frank Lampard you did there, very very stylishly done. Yeah, listen, you're right, mate. It's not really. I don't really feel like laughing at the moment, although it's always good to have you on for a chuckle. Yeah, really frustrating one today. I thought at Easter Road, a number of reasons that we're obviously going to discuss over the next half an hour or so. The performance, basically first half, I think mainly, really disappointing. Second half, I thought we were pretty good, although it was just one of those days still. Obviously, the drama, the VAR drama surrounding the what I thought was a possible equaliser that was clearly given at the time, and then disallowed by VAR with some sort of conclusive evidence. Stevie, they must have some sort of conclusive evidence that the ball drifted out before Alistair Johnson reached it, eh?
Here in Scotland, technology, investment, finances, what? No, surely no. I caught what the manager was saying as well, and he was saying the same thing about, one of the ones where if we've got the technology implemented to tell us if that ball was fully out or not, then great, but we're pretty much relying on one guy in a room in Clydesdale House to make the call that millions in the country are looking at and can call. So what can one... and I don't even want to insult them too much by saying they are competent, but I mean, you know that these guys obviously still get the decisions wrong from behind a camera. It's a monitor, sorry. It was a difficult one to call for them, for anyone, but it's one of the ones that will rumble on. I'm sure that the world will be talking about forever, of course, just like a certain cup final decision, Hamish.
Right, let's keep people just waiting for this chat about it. Let's circle back to it. We'll start with the performance. I guess the team was named. What did we have? 3 changes. We had Greg Taylor in for Jeffrey Schlupp. We had Adam Ida in technically for Jota. And we had Luke McCowan in for Rio Hatate. And all 3 of those players who came in were taken off at half time for the other guys that I mentioned. So you can probably suggest that the starting 11 didn't really work in the first half.
Yeah, I mean, if it was clear 2-0 down and the pace and the tone of the side was all wrong, I felt, Hamish. And the 2 of the subs that were made at half time were spot on. Taylor and Ida could not have survived that first half with their performances alone. I thought they were shocking. I thought McCowan was very unlucky to be hooked, because I don't think Engels, McGregor's never getting taken off, you know that. But Engels, don't think did much in the first half at all. McCowan at least played a great wee ball over the top for AJ for the one chance that we actually had. So, there was that. But aye, the team was totally wrong for the start. And when you're up against a side like Hibs, who are in very good form now, and unbeaten, I think, in the last 10, 11 games, played by a lot of pace and energy. It was the wrong one to be sending out, really.
Yeah, for me today, I was always a bit concerned about this game in the lead up, and I know I didn't do a video yesterday, and apologies everyone for that, but I was a bit kind of concerned leading up to this game, just because of the way Wednesday night had been and how much that would have taken out of the players. Tuesday night it was, and taken out of the players physically, emotionally. And I felt going to Easter Road was probably about as tough a game as we could have this weekend. They're probably the form team in Scotland other than ourselves, and away from home, and at the best of times it's difficult at Easter Road, and we know how bad a record Brendan Rodgers has there. But also conversely, looking at that, I kind of felt good about it, because I thought it was a good game to be going into. They're always really kind of quick games at Easter Road, and I felt the players it'd be a good one for them to get themselves up for. And I just didn't feel we were up for it at all in that first half. I know we still had so much of the ball and probed a little bit, but just really casual, I thought, all over the pitch. And I just thought defensively it was really, really slack. And you can pick out individuals, and people will do that with Greg Taylor and Austin Trusty, who certainly is at fault for the first goal. I don't know where he even is. And it was like after like a minute as well, and you always just felt Hibs were going to score. And we just lacked intensity, and maybe part of that's natural. I mean, do you maybe allow the team a little bit of that given the effort they put in on Tuesday night? But also we have guys like Kasper Schmeichel, who admittedly I still thought was fine today, and obviously isn't an outfield. You have guys like him coming out before the game doing interviews saying, you know, that is the challenge for us, to be on it every game, and we just weren't on it. And we've kind of been off it a bit in away games over the past 3-4 months, maybe not quite as long as that, but you know, you think back to Dundee, the draw there, lucky to get a draw there. Dundee United was a really poor day. Obviously Ibrox was a shocker, and today is another defeat. So I know we've had a couple of away wins in that period. I think Ross County was one in Motherwell, which was relatively straightforward a few weeks ago. But I think away from home we do have a bit of an issue when teams really go for us, and the team need to sort that, because at home we look pretty faultless.
I would do, as I already said, like the tone of the game, Hibs set it. I mean, that should be down to us to do that, and Hibs already set it. You saw after a couple of minutes they got the goal, and it was again just by being first to every one of these second balls. I don't know what Trusty's doing for that first goal. But it's not even just that. It's like even before that, a couple of times Hibs did break the lines, and when they had the ball in midfield, so much space for them. Like loads and loads of space, and there's no pressure coming for any of the three in there. Now, I take your point with what you're saying about it was one of the Euro hangovers to an extent, but you can't really use that as an excuse for the Celtic team, because see, after every game in Europe up till today, we've went and we've won, and I include after Zagreb, like, all right, we drew with Rangers in the cup final, but we still obviously won it in penalties. So this team mentally have been strong enough to go away from home and pick up results. It's going to be ugly, and it's going to be pretty scrappy football, but this team has shown that mentally they are capable of it. But I thought today there was just something right off, and I think the starting lineup was one for us. I mean, if you've got, guys like Jeff Schlupp, who was outstanding in Munich, for example, and even Maeda through the middle, the way that he even set the tone for us in midweek, like, it was just, we were right off it today, because the guys that came in were just alarmingly bad. Like Taylor was shocking, I felt. Anita up front. I was messaging you during the game. I was so frustrated at his, but in fact, frustrated is putting it mildly. I was really, really annoyed by him in that first half, and that's the thing. Like, Hibs would have been getting so much confidence. Can you imagine, like, if you'd saw Celtic against Bayern, if you're a Hibs player and you saw Celtic against Bayern, and a Hibs defender even, Bashiri's prone to so many mistakes. Maeda could have forced him into so many if he was up front. And you saw what happened in the second half. Maeda through the middle. We got a goal for him. Again, he's chasing a lost cause to get something out of nothing. Arguably denied a second. And just in general, he was a bit of a nuisance, and Celtic, came into the game and played a better football through the fact that he's through the middle. And we're actually setting the tone for the rest of the game and playing the way we're meant to be playing. But we were so reactive, and that really, really annoyed me, Hamish, in that first half. So it did. And I'm not, it's not the end of the world, and I'm not going to go and say that's, I'm not going to go the way I was after Ibrox. That's a different level of anger. But it was so avoidable today, and I just felt that you should have been playing up to like 60 minutes, play your strongest side. And even at that, when I was talking to you today as well, I feel some players were left on way too long. Like Nicholas Kuhn, I felt, should have been coming off about 75, 80 minutes. Had a poor game, but I also can excuse him because he went off during the week. I didn't think he would have lasted 90 minutes. Brendan had no problem throwing Yang on against Bayern Munich. Had a really good impact. So I was, looking to see Yang come on here. Nowhere to be seen. He's kept Kuhn on for the 90, and it was like generally very disappointing in that. So yeah, that's where I'm going with that one.
Yeah, just going back to Ida, and we obviously have a bit of a kind of ding dong regularly about Adam Ida, but The one thing I will concede right now, I think it's fair to say that Ida looks far better coming on as a sub into games than he does when he actually starts, and I do think it's a bit of a concern for me that the team look a lot better when Daizen Maida's playing through the middle. And I think personally, I think there's an issue there as well, because Daizen Maida's brilliant. Whether you put him up front, left wing, he makes things happen, and we saw that again today. But yeah, one of the issues for me, and the reason I felt quite strongly about signing a forward at the end of the January transfer window was that when you've got Maida playing through the middle, fine, okay, it works pretty well, but you're losing one of your wingers and one of your main wingers. And I know we've got Jota there now, but if it's not really working for someone like Jota or for someone like Nicholas Kuhn, who I did think was pretty poor today, and there may be reasons for that, but I thought he was really off it today, Nicholas Kuhn, you don't really have options there that Brendan Rodgers trusts to bring on. Whereas if you'd assigned a striker at the end of January, Maida wouldn't be playing as a striker, and you'd have potentially had Maida as an option off the bench, or you'd have been able to rest Kuhn and bring him on potentially into the game. So yeah, but obviously there was other issues today as well. Callum McGregor, you're talking about players who came into the team, and I agree, but Callum McGregor was really poor today as well. Certainly in the first half, there was a number of times down the Hibs left-hand side. I think it happened 2 or 3 times when players would run at Callum McGregor, and McGregor wins the ball back from players all season like that. 99 times out of 100, he just gets his body across, very strong, muscles him out the way and wins the ball back. But there was times today when Hibs players, for whatever reason, were just running past him, and they were quicker than him, they were stronger than him. And again, that may just be fatigue from Tuesday night. He may be carrying some sort of knock. We never really know with Callum McGregor because he gets on with it. But he was miles off it, and when he's off it, we're struggling. I thought early on in the game, Carter Vickers was struggling. He came on to a game, I thought he was better, but he still wasn't quite the Cameron Carter Vickers that we all know. So just overall, it was just a really bad first half. We're 2-0 down at the break, and you see the subs being made, and automatically it filled me with a bit of confidence because I really like Jota. Hatate makes things happen. I think Rio Hatate recently has been really good for us, and Jeff Schlupp was excellent in midweek, and I thought Schlupp was great again. I thought he made a hell of a difference from Greg Taylor. I know he wasn't perfect. There was a couple of ones, maybe as the game was kind of approaching the end and stoppage time, where he passed the ball out of the park, and it was very frustrating, but I thought he generally made things happen when he came on. So for me, he has to start going forward. We're kind of approaching the point of the season, Stevie, where we're going to only have one game a week. I think Aberdeen's maybe the second, the kind of second last midweek game we've got, and there'll be one more after the split. So you're going to have one game a week. You're not going to be rotating quite as much. Get Schlupp in that team every weekend starting, because I do think, as much as Greg Taylor has been a good servant for us, I think right now Schlupp's a better option for me.
He is. He's a better standard of player. He's a bit more quality than Greg Taylor, and I think it's non-negotiable. That I know Greg Taylor's been a good servant, as you say, and he's been here and done it and proved doubters wrong, but we're at the point now where you really putting that emotion over playing a guy like Schlupp for the start, who's undoubtedly a better player. It's as simple as that. That's what it comes down to for me. Schlupp is our first choice left back till May, and it's a non-negotiable as far as I'm concerned. Especially even after today, where I just felt Hibs they already could tell Taylor was a weak link again today. How often did we see that just ball right down the line, and we're already on the back foot with it? Whereas second half wasn't the case. Celtic pushed more forward. Jota was integral with that, but also the fact that Schlupp wasn't getting bullied anywhere near like Taylor was, and that was just key to that second half. I don't want to say recovery, but not so much a horror show as what we seen in the first half. You're right. I mean, there can be no doubt for anyone now that Jeff Schlupp is going to be a first choice left back, and as you say, the other big part now is the lack of midweek games. I'm sick of getting on about them. You know what I've got to say about them after Aberdeen on Tuesday. That's it. I think the next one we'll probably have will be like April or May, and that's probably going to be away from home anyway, isn't it? So very welcome to have back to one game a week, and then there's going to be a break, isn't there, in a few weeks? I think there's a break. No, there's a break after we play Rangers, isn't there, for a couple of weeks? Then we're back in Easter. So I think hopefully then after that we get these games sort of just ticked off, and then the players will be able to recover and then end the season on a high. One of the ones that hopefully, when it comes to May, when we lift that trophy and we look at days like this, we look at the match against Dundee, the match against Rangers, Dundee United, yes, they're annoyances, they are frustrations, but ultimately we're not going to remember them and going about them too much, other than just being mildly annoyed more than anything. Yeah. So that's my real hope with it, and it's one that I just hope we don't dwell on too much as the season unfolds, really.
Yeah, I found it quite frustrating. I think the most frustrating thing was that we did play quite well in the second half, and I mean Hibs had very little. They had a claim for a penalty, didn't they? And it was never a penalty. Then we ran up the other end of the park and nearly scored. That was a frantic minute, and at that point you're thinking, right, we might have this here, because I think the whole second half we were dominant, I thought, but we hadn't scored at all. I think I need to double check, but I think we maybe score with about 20 minutes left, 22, 23 minutes, something like that. And I remember looking at the clock at 65 minutes thinking, right, I feel like we're going to score, but we need to score quickly. And then Dyson Maeda does it. It's the most Dyson Maeda goal of all time, isn't it? Because he switched on when no one else is, and he turns a sclaffed shot from, I think it was Hatate, into an assist, and he does so well. The keeper does terribly, but it was brilliant from Maeda. And then we have that real Jota chance where he runs through, should probably square it to Nicholas Kuhn, but also I think Kuhn does kind of have someone on him. It wasn't a really obvious pass, or otherwise Jota would have done it. So, and he comes very close to scoring. Bashiri clears it off the line. But I felt quite confident that we'd get another goal at that stage, and then we do get another goal, and it's well worked. Johnson gets to the byline, cuts it across, Maeda's there. It's given, but there's a bit of debate over whether Johnson's kept the ball in. The official, the linesman, and also the referee obviously reckon that Johnson did keep the ball in. And then we go to a VAR check, and suddenly it appears that those wonderful VAR officials are going to disallow the goal for what must be a clear and obvious error, Stevie. We should point that out, that the VAR officials aren't determining, first of all, whether the ball went in or out. What they're actually set to do is determine whether the refereeing team has made a clear and obvious error in disallowing the goal. So that's the question they should be asked. The image is going around, Stevie. You'll have seen it. My verdict is that it's very difficult, incredibly difficult, and impossible actually to say for sure whether the ball goes out here before Johnson puts it across. The important thing here is that the VAR officials have to see a clear and obvious error to intervene, and they can't be sure at all. You can bring up the whole Japan-Spain thing featuring Dyson Maeda from the last World Cup, when the camera angle made it look like the ball was out, and then you actually see the dead-on one that shows that the ball wasn't. So you can bring all that stuff in. For me, Stevie, though, the main thing here is that these images or stills aren't conclusive, and they can't say for sure that the ball went out, yet they have said for sure that the ball went out, and I've got an issue with that.
I do too. You need the technology for that. I mean, it would be available in other leagues for that type of situation, but not here, not in wee plucky Scottish football. And yet again, we've had so many issues with it, haven't we? I mean, look at, just a few weeks ago, look at the offside against Adamida against Motherwell, where I've said that offside was only offside if you really wanted it to be. Again, that's like that one there with the ball. If you're dying to see that ball out of play, then it's out of play. You know what I mean? That's the way it comes in, because we literally don't have the technology to tell us otherwise. So we're just relying on Sunday going with that line of thinking. That is how it is. I'm with you. Like when you showed me that image on the screen there, I don't know if you'll have it up for the watchers or anything like that.
Of course.
What a guy! Look at that. See, when you look at that one, I'm with you there. It's so difficult to tell. It's like looking at it, it does look as if the ball might all be out, but if we were to have technology to zoom down on it like that, game you were on about in the World Cup in 2022, Japan and Spain, it was like, and I mean, you're talking like even less than an inch of it was still in play, wasn't it? And it could be the case here. It's one of the moments yet again. we'll just never know, and we've had to rely on just one guy behind a monitor in Clydesdale House that's just under pressure, no doubt. Because if that dragged on, then everybody starts getting restless, and both sets of fans and players are starting to get annoyed, and the referee's putting again more pressure on them and everything. And he's probably just went, no, what was it? And then that's it. And it was had to give him the benefit of the doubt. That's accurate. I mean, that's probably what's happened. It's just he's just done that. But I'm not sitting, and I'm not saying, it's this big massive injustice against Celtic, and let's go and storm Clydesdale House. Nothing like that. Just the processes and the procedures have to be better. The investment and the technology has to be there, and it's never going to be there. So we could be talking about, I'm telling you now, as long as VAR's in Scottish football, something like this will happen again for another team. Maybe next season, the season beyond. There's never going to be any learn. They won't learn from it. That's my point. They will not learn for this.
My issue here, just to go kind of big scale on VAR, and it's going back a few years now, but they basically are using a stripped down version or stripped back version of VAR as opposed to like the one you see down south. Shock horror, we're using, I think it's like VAR Lite, where in general for non-televised matches they use 6 cameras, which might sound like a decent amount, but it's really not when you're looking to get different angles of the pitch. For televised matches, and I'm pretty sure, again remembering a couple of years back, televised matches obviously they use far more cameras than that for broadcasting purposes, and the VAR studio get access to these extra cameras, and I think that can go up to like 16, 17, 18 cameras sometimes, mainly for Sky Sports games. Now, today's game wasn't on Sky Sports, it was Premier Sports, and I don't know this for sure, I'm just putting it out there, but I just wonder maybe if Premier Sports maybe don't use quite as many camera angles as Sky, and potentially if the game had been on Sky Sports today, maybe we would have had like a view on the goal line. You want one high up in line with the goal line, and I feel like that's one that Sky have done in the past. Obviously, the other one that we're thinking about when we're talking about camera angles here, the issue concerning Celtic was the one at Fir Park a few years ago with Jota, in the time when they had the correct camera, but it was focused on a guy eating a pie in the main stand at Fir Park. Didn't even know you were there that day,
I was there that game.
Listen, we're making light of it, but it was really frustrating, and that's the issue here. Like, this is a stripped back version of VAR, and you just can't say for sure, and they need to be able to say for sure. And if they can't say that the ball was out. So it's going to be an interesting episode of the VAR review with Willie Collum whenever that comes out, Stevie. And I'm genuinely going to be interested in hearing him explain how they know that the ball went out, other than him just saying one of our officials took a look at that camera and thought the ball was out. Because you genuinely can't look at that still image and say for sure that the ball went out, and that's my big issue. By the way, Brendan Rodgers not happy either. We saw him after the game speaking to the officials. He's quoted as saying, "My take is that the VAR official Alan Muir has had a guess at it. The linesman arguably has the best view in the stadium, and he doesn't give it brackets as out of play. So for that to get overturned, then I'm assuming there's an absolutely clear image of the ball being out of play." Well, I don't know, our pal Gio was the photographer there today, Stevie. So maybe Gio's got an image of it that's going to sort this once and for all. But in the absence of that, I don't think that we're going to see this magic image, and we'll just need to live with a defeat.
Gio did have a magic image back in the 2012 League Cup final, remember, when Lenny and Mialbi and Thompson were all huddled around his camera. So you never know. Maybe he's here to save the day again. Go on, Gio.
Legend, great photographer, and I know he watches the videos as well.
Also,
Anyway, Stevie,
I know that we are talking about this, and you're right. Look, that can be the narrative. The reality was Celtic started with the wrong team today. Their general first half performance was atrocious, and then they ended up reacting and chasing the game, and that's essentially what lost us that poor first half performance, because it was the wrong side. And yeah, you can throw in that we deserved a draw because of the VAR incident, and we'll know for sure later, hopefully, when it comes to that review show. But the reality is, let's not take away that first half performance was the real one we should be talking about, because it was arguably the wrong side that was sent out, first and foremost, for the manager.
Yeah, overall, really disappointing. I found it really frustrating. I mean, I was getting wound up by Josh Campbell today, so that tells you what kind of day I've had here. He was really winding me up at the end of the match, but listen, that's what these players do for their teams. They get in your faces, and 9 times out of 10, Celtic deal with it, and we get the last laugh. Hibs beat us today, and we'll need to lick our wounds and not stew on it for so long. I heard Kasper Schmeichel before the game saying that the rule of thumb with footballers is you kind of let it affect you and feel what you want to feel about a bad loss up until midnight, and then move on with it. So I'm guessing that's what's going to happen. The team will be back in and move on. We've got Aberdeen in midweek, and it's another big game at Celtic Park, and I think we all feel we're all going to be fine with regards to the league title. But you don't want any more real setbacks here, do you? Because certainly away from home, there's been a few too many for me recently. I think the home form's absolutely fine, but let's do this in style. Let's go and win the league in style, and talk about a wee bit of revenge. Scottish Cup tie against Hibs in a few weeks at Celtic Park. I think that just got a bit tastier.
I actually think Hibs will have a real go as well. Remember the last time at Celtic Park they did? Arguably could have scored a few. I think Hibs will go for it. They'll bring a good travelling support as well. They'll probably be more confident after today, which suits us, because I think they will have a go, and it'll be a classic cup tie, Hamish. So I think the team will be in a way after that today, though. I think that will be a good thing too, because I think the team will be right up for that. And as we saw with a Celtic side, when there is a setback, they do recover and react very quickly and very well.
Any other comments, Stevie? Anything else even going on in your life? Any stories to cheer us all up? You want to do something?
What was I doing? Do you know, when I was watching the game, you obviously had a viral infection during the week, and I was watching the game, and it was so weird watching Celtic. Like, I was really intense and tuned into it against Bayern Munich, but I was like drenched in sweat, and I was like shattered as well. So it felt like one big fever dream. It's a surreal experience, and it got me thinking, like, the people out there that are around the world that are maybe watching Celtic in worse situations or have other things going on in their life and all that, and it must be like a similar. I don't know. I can't even put into words how strange an experience it was, but it's one of the things I wouldn't say I recommend it, Hamish, because I'm mumbling and I'm waffling on here, right? But it's not. The best way I can put it is in The Sopranos, when Tony's having that mad dream about his pal that ends up betraying him, and then he goes and kills him in the boat. It was like that. Half of the stuff I was watching, I thought I was like dreaming and all that, and it was as if I was like tripping out my face. So I didn't think you were going to end it on this note, did you? But that's the best way I can describe watching Celtic, like when you are like suffering big time for an illness. It was crazy, really mad.
Well, you really ticked the cheer everyone up box there, Stevie, so I really appreciate
I'm fine. I'm fine other than that, but
yeah,
that was always going on. I was saying to my mate Monty as well about it, and it was a crazy experience, but hopefully never happens again.
All right, everyone. Rare defeat for Celtic today at Hibernian. It is what it is. We'll move on. I'm sure the chat will go on for a fair bit yet. I'll return on Monday morning to start looking ahead to Aberdeen.